STEM fans, are you ready? Let's hear it for the world-class NASA STEM Stars team. From NASA centers across the country, we present Dana Bolles.
Welcome to NASA STEM Stars. Dana, thank you so much for joining us. How does it feel to be a NASA STEM Star?
Oh, it feels really great. I mean, I've watched some of your other interviews, and it's a really great honor for me to be here with you today.
Well, we are so happy you're with us. So my name is Lynn Dotson. I'm a NASA Education Specialist at Kennedy Space Center, coming to you live. And today we are in celebration of Americans with Disabilities Act and how it was signed into law 31 years ago. And so we are having a special 65th edition of our NASA STEM Stars episode, and this is Dana Bolles. We're so happy you're here. She is an external informational technology technology lead at NASA's headquarters. Sorry, it's a lot to take. And then Dana will share about her background, her experiences, and her amazing work she does at NASA. And finally, we want you all to stick around because we would love for Dana to answer any of her questions you might have in the chat. And we also have a fun call to action. So let's just get started. Dana, how are you? And tell me a little bit about who you are. Let the audience know who you are and a little bit about your interests.
I was born in LA and I grew up in California, in Norwalk. And I went to school at UC Santa Cruz. And then after 2 years, I went to Long Beach State, which is where I have my Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. And it was about a year and a half after graduation that I got my first job with NASA in 1995 at the Kennedy Space Center. And I worked at Kennedy almost 3 years before I transferred. And I will say I worked at 4 different NASA centers. And in my mind, Kennedy was the best place to be introduced to NASA. I mean, it was exciting being a payload safety engineer, where I worked as part of the ground safety review panel, and it was just so exciting to work the launches and to meet the different payload organizations and to be on a really great team. Part of, actually, I didn't even mention this, but some of my hobbies that I like to do, I like to spend time with family and friends, and I'm also involved in different organizations, different disability-related organizations. I've done a few over the years. I like to, when I'm with friends, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing. I like to shoot pool. That's a lot of fun, although I really haven't had time to do that lately. But I also feel it's important to be involved in the community. And over the years, I've been involved with different disability-related organizations. These are a few of the organizations I've been involved with in the past, and I'm also involved in the Paul K. Longmore Institute currently. And yeah, life is just to enjoy with family and friends, work hard, and to follow your dreams, and to find what you love to do and to do a lot of it.
Very cool. So I saw you definitely spend time with your family and friends, and you volunteer. And you said something, we had talked earlier, you mentioned something about a cool bike for cancer survivors. Can you talk a little bit about that opportunity for you and why you did it?
Yeah, my mom had breast cancer, and so I wanted to be part of the Avon 3-day breast cancer walk. It's a big fundraiser. You commit to raising $2,000 for the cause of breast cancer research, and then you do a 60-mile walk over 3 days. I did it on a bike, on a hand cycle with my hooks, and with the help of really amazing friends who helped me for the segments of the walk that were over curbs. They would help me to get the bike up over that or down off a curb. And they also helped me to get through the parts where the ground was not that firm. Like we had to go through some parts that had a lot of wood in it, wood chips. So with that, I was able to finish the 60 miles. It was a huge challenge because I am really not the athletic type at all. So I had 2.5 months to practice. And I did it, 60 miles in 3 days. It was an amazing feeling. And my sister was there with my niece and nephew, and it was really cool.
And you said your mom was able to see you finish it, and she wasn't there, but she was actually able to see you finish it. And you raised a lot of money for the organization. And I think your volunteering and your philanthropy, I mean, seriously, it's amazing what you've been doing, hearing your story. So I appreciate everything that you have told us. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very inspired by you. So we're going to start off with a new segment, and this is actually called Lightning Round. And in it, I'm going to be asking you some rapid fire questions, and you're going to give one-word responses. So let's see how many you can get in 30 seconds. We've done this twice already with the other shows. So Dana, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's put 30 seconds.
Time for NASA STEM Stars Lightning Round.
Okay, let's put 30 seconds on that clock. And I know that you, Dana, are competitive. Like we've already talked about this. So here we go. Camping or glamping?
Glamping.
Okay, are you a talker or a texter?
Texter.
Pizza or pickles?
Pizza.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Book or movie?
Movie.
Shopping, online or in person?
In person.
Tie-dye or bow tie?
Neither.
Okay, vacation or staycation? That's okay. Okay, vacation, staycation?
Vacation.
Okay. Woo! That you did it. You actually answered. Well, we're at a tie, I think. You're at 8. You have answered 8 questions, which is exciting. So I know you're tied up here, but you have been enshrined on our leaderboard. You're at the top with someone else. But still, we're excited for that.
That's fine.
You're a winner in my book. There we go. Yay. There it is. You can see it will be moved up. It's not going to stay at the bottom.
I love number 8.
You loved it? Number 8, the staycation or vacation. What was your answer? I just was so excited I couldn't even hear your answer.
Vacation.
Vacation. Where's one of the coolest places you've been?
Italy.
Oh, that's a
Venice. Venice is amazing.
Oh my goodness. I'm very jealous of you right now. I would love to go to Italy. That is on my bucket list for sure. So I want everybody to just give some emoji thumbs ups in the chat. Let's see the love for Dana. She did a great job. It is still a new segment and she rocked it. So very good, Dana. Let's keep talking about you and your journey. So I want to talk a little bit more about how you grew up, where you were born, raised, your family, anything you want to share about, just your journey of growing up.
I was adopted, but I was placed with my family when I was 2 months old. So when growing up, I didn't look to them as my adopted family because they're very much just my family. And I was very lucky because my siblings and my parents, they treated me, they encouraged me to do everything I wanted to do. And in high school, I wanted to be in the marching band, and I remember coming home carrying my marching band uniform, and my mom thought, oh my God, this girl is crazy, but she still supported me in that. And my dad took me to every football game. My mom was active in the Band Boosters. And so my whole life, they raised me with that encouragement, and it helped me to build my confidence. And I was very fortunate that growing up, I had a lot of support from mentors, from from educators, from my parents, and that's pretty much what carried me through. I I know life is tough, and there's things that come along and are in, barriers that come in our way and discourage us sometimes, whether it's other people being negative or not believing in what we could do. But I just had to not let that affect my desire to move forward and to go beyond. And I think the hardest parts are when the really difficult things in life come up, like deaths and stuff that really kind of make you take a step back. But at the end of the day, I just had to decide for myself, is this going to stop me, or am I going to move forward and keep going? Because I'm the only one who has the power to make my life the way I want it to be. Nobody else has that. So if I want to sit in the corner and let life pass me by, I could do that. But I'm the one being hurt by that, nobody else.
Yeah, your story is just so inspirational. You persevered through everything, all the challenges. Life in general can be very challenging, and you made it through, and you are making the most of it. And it's I know our listeners are just loving.
There's a lot of failures too. There's a lot of failures, but you just have to move on.
Failure is definitely an option. It happens, and then what we always say as teachers, it's kind of cheesy, but your first attempt at a success is sometimes can be failure, but you're going to get there. You're going to get there. So
you learn.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just saying, from failures you learn from each one, so they're valuable also.
Absolutely. So you had mentioned something about just recently being able to actually meet your biological father. You want to talk a little bit about that moment and you said some pretty cool things about this situation.
This is a photo of my father and my brother, and I did not find my father until I turned 39. It was right after turning 39, and the really interesting thing is I had already been working for NASA for a number of years, because I started in 1995 when I was in my mid-20s. And when I found my father, I find that he's a master model maker, and he makes spacecraft models for a living. So it's just incredible to see how our paths have kind of intertwined a bit without even knowing it. I mean, NASA JPL is one of his biggest customers, and he had been building models ever since before I was born, I think. And yeah, it's a really nice little connection that we have.
And you're still in touch with him today?
I am. He's incredible. Awesome. He just finished building the fourth full-scale model of Perseverance. So yeah, wow. He's still very active.
So even though you went at birth separate, there was separation, there still was that connectedness. And that's what I found pretty impressive about that story, that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You definitely still went through and got into the space industry, and I'm sure he's so proud of you to this day. So, so talking about school, I kind of had a question about what actually led you to wanting to go into technology, informational technology. Was there a subject? Was there a teacher? What led you to your path of, and I know we'll talk about college in a moment, but I'm still thinking elementary, middle school, high school. Was there any time you said, yeah, this is going to be my path, NASA?
Right. When I was younger, I wanted to be an astronaut because I wanted to have a job where my chair didn't make a huge difference. And so that was my main, I guess, being in love with NASA is that attraction. But as I got older, I said, well, I might not be able to be an astronaut, but I could work for NASA, and I chose engineering. And the biggest driver for that was that I depend so much on technology to be independent that I thought being trained as an engineer would be helpful in my life, in my entire life, not just as a job, but in the way I problem solve for myself.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, well, actually, I just want to read one of the comments that just came in because it's from Miguel. And he said, wow, you are a powerful woman, Dana, and you're a hero. Never give up, and God bless. So I just that's a
Thank you.
great comment. I see it. We're having some questions coming in too. So really cool path that you've taken. Now you did mention wanting to be an astronaut, and there is a program you've been mentioning about disabilities in space. Can you? Is that something you might consider?
Well, what I find very exciting these days is that the topic of disability in space is becoming more and more of a hot topic of everybody. I mean, it's something that I always believed in, and I wanted to happen, but we have a lot of people, a lot of groups popping up throughout the country, and even in Europe. ESA is looking at the feasibility of having disabled astronauts. Yeah. So this is a topic that's becoming more and more realistic because it's becoming more and more of a discussion. And there's going to be more opportunities coming up. And there's really smart people making a strong case for having disabled astronauts, disabled colonists, and space explorers. You know, and what they're doing is they're looking at the strengths that you could bring, that you could use from the disabled community. I mean, we are a really strong community, and people tend to look at us for what we can't do, but what they need to do instead is look at us for what we can do, because there's a lot of skills that we have inherently from our experience living life with disability every day.
Oh, well put. That's a very, very good way of segmenting to the next section. But at the same time, I really hope that I see you in space someday, Dana. Like that is a dream of mine now. Yeah. I got to see you in space.
Now it's a dream of
mine. So let's talk a little bit about your college career. You kind of mentioned a little bit in the beginning about your progression, but I know we have a picture here of you graduating officially. Tell us a little bit about your progression with school.
Yes, I was mainstreamed at 5 years old, and it was at a time when the Education for All Handicapped Children Act had just passed. So the schools really weren't real familiar with how to do it, but I was lucky enough that the teacher I had in the school for disabled kids and a teacher on the quote normal side, they both supported my being mainstreamed, as well as the principal of the school and my parents. So with all that, I was able to be mainstreamed, and it was an interesting educational path. I went to school there from K through 7th, and then I went to high school from 8th through 12th. And going through high school, you know, my mom and my dad, it wasn't, do you want to go to college? It was, what college do you want to go to? So I went to UC Santa Cruz for a couple of years. Go Banana Slugs. I loved it.
Yeah, I love that.
I went to Long Beach.
Definitely one of the best mascots ever. Besides my high school mascot, but whatever. We talked about that.
and Long Beach is where I got my degree. And then after my bachelor's, I went to San Francisco State for a master certificate in rehab engineering and technology. And I finished that. Right after I finished that was when I started working at Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Very cool. Of course, I'm a little bit biased. I do love Kennedy. Another question that came in is from Sabru, I believe, and it says, "What are the trainings needed to be an astronaut?" Well, or maybe how did you know? It says, what do you know about astronaut training? So I guess if you were to be selected, you know, this might not be your expertise, but I think one of the coolest places to train would be in the pool, but that's because I love the ocean and water. Yeah. But do you think you would be up for the training?
Oh, I would definitely be up. Yeah. I mean, I would do everything I could. If the opportunity came up, I would do exactly what I needed to do to try and do it, to try and be successful at it. Whether or not I could do it is a whole other thing, but I would be focused on it and trying to get ready for that. Very cool. I think the fact that they're looking at possibly opening it up to disabled people, I'm not speaking about NASA per se, but just the whole opening up space to everybody. You know, the fact that they're doing that they're adapting, right, about what who can and can't be an astronaut. And so you have to look at that also. There will be certain adaptations to what's required, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Very good. So, talking about your NASA career, you said you started at Kennedy Space Center again in 1996. So here's a great picture of you at work.
95.
Talk a little bit of, yeah, oh, it was 95, 95. I apologize. So that's at Kennedy right there. You want to chat about what you did there?
I was part of the payload safety group, and some of my payloads I looked at was TDRS, tracking data and relay satellite, and I also I had one of the ISS flights, the third assembly flight, and Mars, the Mars orbiter. So those were three of my biggest payloads. Two of them were on the ELVs, the expendable launch vehicles, the rockets. And it was great just learning about space and the payloads and being able to work with the different payload organizations to get their payloads up on shuttle. It was just amazing. Or the ELVs. It was just an incredible experience.
Awesome. Yeah. And seeing all that hard work eventually launch. I'm sure that you enjoyed the launches too. That's one of my favorites. So after that, you went to Ames. Talk a little bit about your experience at Ames. You've been everywhere. It's awesome.
Actually, between Kennedy and Ames, I worked at Goddard for a year and a half, a really short year and a half, but I don't have a picture of it. But at Goddard, I was a safety engineer, and now I'm looking at facility drawings to make sure we comply with Life Safety Code 101. After Goddard, I went to Ames, and I started out in environmental compliance. I worked with the group for 8.5 years. It was it's a huge challenge working in the Bay Area in environmental compliance because we had the most stringent regulations in the whole country. So it was huge. I managed the center's air quality program, hazardous material storage, industrial wastewater discharge. So there was it was a huge thing, but I really believed in it. And I'm an environmentalist at heart. So even though I'm not doing it for my job, I still believe in saving the world, and I do everything I can to minimize my impact to the environment. And I did that. I worked 2 years in strategic communications before going to the Science Mission Directorate. And I was a ISS payload logistics lead for 2 years. And I also worked for the Human Research Program, which was an awesome NASA program. I love HRP. It was one of my favorite jobs.
That's cool. I know that you said that you do a lot of outreach and conferences and speaker panels. So I think there's a few pictures of you actually at a conference and with the speakers panel. So that's probably one of the coolest things about working at NASA is spreading the NASA word. I know for sure. As an educator, I always love doing that. So
This is my colleague Don Chuck, and this is when I was in environmental, and so we had once a year we'd have our environmental conference, and so it was really great working with Don. I loved it.
Yeah.
This is a speaker panel I was on. It was geared towards middle school girls, I believe middle school, maybe high school. And she was one of the panelist members. She was a medical doctor. And that was fun. I love, throughout my whole NASA career, I love doing outreach and speaking and encouraging the youth to go after their dreams, because it's easy to get sidetracked or knocked off your track when things happen in your life or when you have setbacks. But really, with each experience, we learn how to adapt and to adjust and to move on and to keep going, not to give up, because the best thing you could do is just to have your best life, and you'll be very happy.
Very good. Very good. So I want to get this right now. I know I messed up the title in the beginning of the episode, but what does the management and program analyst or informational technology lead do at NASA's headquarters?
So more recently, I was just hired at NASA headquarters, and this is my 4th NASA center. And as the external IT lead, I manage the team that develops and edits the science.nasa.gov website. So I'm the NASA official for that website. It's a huge responsibility because, science, we're not done with science unless we communicate it to the public. It's our biggest thing to make sure that everybody gets to see what we're doing in science and to really benefit from our research and to know it. A lot of people don't realize how much NASA really does for the community and the world. And it's not just space exploration, but it's everything. It's in our research and it's in the technology that we transfer. It's a lot. We care about the American people and the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the spinoffs. So I'll do a little tag right there. Like, if you haven't checked it out, you guys check out NASA spinoffs. Yeah. There's so much technology. It's not just, we're not just developing stuff for NASA. It's for the better of humankind.
Yes,
so we have, I think you had an opportunity to meet one of our administrators. Is that right?
Oh, yes. Our former administrator, Bridenstine, he came to NASA Ames to meet with a lot of the different employee resource groups. And yeah, it was fun. I was, as I mentioned before, I was the chair, or I don't remember if I mentioned it, but I was the chair of the disability ERG at Ames for many years. And so it was a really great responsibility because even at a time when we didn't have much activity from the group members, it was important to keep the group running so that when issues came up for the employees with disabilities, we had a process in place and a vehicle to be able to report those things to upper management. And
yeah, that's great. And your current, I know you had one last picture of you at your current location, although you are working from home like a lot of us right now. But
right.
That was a really nice desk right there. They got you hooked up there at the NASA headquarters.
Yeah.
Very good. So there was another question from Miguel. Just asking in general, how many years does it take to become a NASA engineer? And I think there's many answers to this question, but in general,
there's a lot of answers. Yeah, in general, like after high school, I went to UC Santa Cruz for 2 years. But when I was at UC Santa Cruz, I took all GE courses. When I transferred to Long Beach, I lost a few units. So it took me a little bit longer. Plus there was an accident and that delayed my graduation. So it took me about 6.5 years to get my degree. And it took longer to get my job with NASA because with the government has hiring freezes a lot of the time. So I met the recruiter 1 year and I didn't get hired till 2 years later, 2 years after that time I met him. So it was a long wait. And, but luckily I ran into him the second year. The first year, nothing happened because of the hiring freeze. Second year, I ran into him and he remembered me. And it was from that interaction, the second time, that eventually led to my job with NASA. So, it wouldn't necessarily take me that long because, there were different circumstances that dragged out my time a bit longer. But, some people have different life circumstances. They might have to work part-time, which means they wouldn't have to take as many classes at a time. But if you have it in your sights and you know what you can give at the time, just stay on the path and it'll happen. Just seek out opportunities, internships, with whoever you want to work with. And that's a really good way to get introduced to the companies or the agency you want to work for.
Yeah. And I'm hoping maybe in the chat, we have a moderator that's kind of moderating. I would hope that person would hopefully put in the NASA opportunities for our internships, because let me tell you, that opens a lot of doors. And I know quite a few interns that are at NASA now. So yeah, that's obviously. Go ahead.
And it not only gives NASA a chance to decide if they want to work with you, but it gives you a chance to decide, do you want to work with NASA? And do you want to do what you think you want to do? Because it's really hard to know unless you're doing it.
Yeah. And exactly. That's a great way, a good piece of advice for our listeners. Try it out. But I can tell, I know I wouldn't be disappointed. So
right.
Sounds like we have a few more questions we're going to kind of open up. Some of them have come in. Man, lots of people in the chat. And we answered the one about the engineer. Someone was asking, do you work with SpaceX at all, or have you had an opportunity to work with SpaceX?
I don't work with SpaceX. My last job as a payload safety engineer, ISS payload logistics lead, I worked more directly with the teams at Ames, putting up biological experiments on stations. So I never really worked with SpaceX.
Okay. Let's see. Any news about the new spacesuits? I'm not sure. I mean, you are with communications, but I know that's still kind of, they kind of introduced the new spacesuits. I remember seeing that, but
right. Yeah, the new spacesuits, I believe, would go more under the human exploration and a different directorate than I'm part of. I'm part of the science mission directorate, so we look more at the research that's being done on in space. But as far as there is research going on in spacesuits, but that's more directly tied to human exploration, which is a little bit different.
And then Lupe said, just a comment, it's great to know how the work of NASA isn't just for space exploration, but how it can benefit us all. So,
and that's what I love about NASA. It's always what I've loved about NASA is the fact that we're here for the American people. Definitely.
Absolutely. So what I think, see, I told you time would go by quickly. We're near the end of the program, but I do want to make sure that I do a little shout out to everyone and let everybody know what their call to action is. This is actually cool. Your call to action is actually deals with actually Perseverance, our rover that's on Mars. And if you didn't notice, as the parachute deployed, there was actually a code in that parachute, and I'm not sure if you know what it said, but it did say "Dare Mighty Things." And so what I'm hoping you guys do for your call to action is actually go to this website that's put in the chat, and then try to do some of your own coding, come up with your own saying, and share your work. We love it when you guys actually do these activities and push #NextGenSTEM. And then, of course, next week's episode, we want you to tune in. It's important. It is in Espanol, our NASA STEM stars, and it's Dr. Geronimo Benuela. I'm sure I did not say his name correctly, but he is going to be with our NASA STEM stars in Espanol next Wednesday. So, Dana, I think at this time, I'm going to leave you with one final thought because we are running out of time. But one final thought, if you had to say something to our listeners, inspirational, what would you let them know?
I don't know exactly who said this, but I heard about this quote. It says, "Turn fear from a headwind to a tailwind." And I really love that quote because we all have fear about not knowing something or failing, but if you turn it into a tailwind, it'll help propel you forward.
Oh, I love that. Perfect for aeronautics, and that's the A in NASA, so the first A in NASA. Yep. Thank you so much, Dana. You have been a pleasure to talk to. You are such an inspiration, and I look forward to seeing you in space very soon. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.